You're tuned to Evergreen Media Network. I am Cindy Schwartz. This is the Patient Partner Show. Jeannie Roller and I, my co-host, we talk about some of these healthcare situations and stories. Some of it's happened to us, which is what got us started talking about it, because we couldn't believe the lack of trust, the lack of dignity, the lack of respect, where that had gone for the patients in the healthcare arena, and also for the doctors and the nurses that are trying to do a good job. I mean, I'm on their side too, Jeannie. I am. I feel sorry for somebody that has to work in an industry and they really want to help people and they have to be guided by these parameters that are just, in my opinion, slipshod, a lot of it, and it's just all about the numbers and what's your date of birth, how good of an insurance company do you have, and that's all they really want to know. My opinion, of course. We were talking on a previous podcast, I was talking about an article that's on the website iahssf.org/research/preventing patient abuse, why abuse happens and how to stop it. And two of the big points that we both likened on, and not in a good way likened on, but are just want to expound more on it, is the coerced nudity in the healthcare arena for the patients. And also, Jeannie, we're talking about non-elderly adult abuse is an aspect of patient abuse that is not widely addressed. So we've had many people call in on this show. We've talked with them. We talk with them not on the show, on in other avenues, on why is this happening, why the abuse. I don't get it, Jeannie. What's your thought on all of this?
Well, I think it happens a lot, Cindy. The coerced nudity. I mean, it not only happens in pre and post-op, but it also happens in a doctor's office. Mm-hmm. It can happen in your hospital room when they come in to do certain things and they just yank back the covers mm-hmm. and expose your private areas. A lot of times I know people have said they don't close the curtains, they don't close the door, or they don't put a sign on the door saying do not enter, especially during, an intimate exam in the mm-hmm. doctor's office. All this is coerced nudity to me. To me, it's also intimidation for a lot of people because they're told, get over it. The problem is with you. We mm-hmm. see body parts like mm-hmm. this all day long. Mm-hmm. To me, that is intimidation. That is, they're trying to humiliate the patient into following their orders. So to me, that is all patient abuse. It follows the definition of what we read on the last show about what constitutes verbal abuse. So it is all full of that, because I've heard stories from both women and men that they've told, well, if I don't know what you're fussing about because this man is involved in your care or this woman is involved in your care. They've seen it all before. They don't have sexual thoughts, but clearly they may not personally have sexual thoughts, but clearly there are other medical providers who do have sexual thoughts, because you read about it in newspaper stories where they've molested or assaulted hundreds and hundreds of patients. Mm-hmm. So the intimidation that they use or humiliation tactics that they use is abuse, and it needs to stop. But yet it keeps continuing, and I hear more and more stories from more and more people about it.
And I totally agree with you, Jeannie. I mean, this may be our opinion, but some of these things, when I'm perusing this article, are from 1985. So the right. segment that talks about the non-elderly adult abuse, that's from 1985. That little bit of information there. I also want to add that it says in a hospital scandal, additionally in this, a hospital scandal that took place in a certain trust hospital, approximately 1,200 patients died from 2005 to 2008 because of inadequate care. I mean, that's just a number that I can't wrap my brain around. You're talking about 400 people a year. How many people is that a day? One person a day, almost? More than one person a day. 1-point-something person a day is dying because of inadequate care. What in the world is going on, literally, in the world? I mean, is this all at the end? Go ahead.
Well, they also talk about some of these institutions, hospital institutions, and so on and so forth, having a tolerance of unacceptable behavior that can lead to patients being cared for incorrectly or wrongly, whatever you want to say. So there is, and I agree. I think that the hospital we dealt with, they have that attitude that it is acceptable for some patients to be abused, basically, that there is a tolerance in some of the medical settings to allow for this, is what I feel.
How is that even possible, though? I mean, if you think about it in humanity wise, in dignity, respect,
Yep.
for each of us to
Yep.
the other person that's living in the same world, not to, get on a soapbox. I'm already on the soapbox, but how do you just disrespect the other person? And you're incapacitated because of people are afraid. Yeah, you go in for a procedure or whatever. I mean, you're scared to death. This isn't your arena. You're looking to have comfort. You're looking to have, some people accuse other ones of being, you have to be in control. You're a control freak. That's not it at all. You want the safety. Don't you want to feel safe? I mean, that was what I kept saying. How do you feel safe with something like that when they're just abusing you like that? You can't. It's just, it's crazy. And some of the things you have to remember, and we've said this so many times too, patients, us as patients, are literally under the influence of powerful drugs. Don't tell me that doesn't skew your mind. It doesn't skew your reaction. I mean, how many of side effects are told on every commercial that thousands of them, it seems like, in a 1 hour TV show of all the side effects that could happen. So you have to know as the medical person that this is part of what's happening. It's not necessarily that the person is trying to give you a hard time, that maybe that their whole faculties are a little bit skewed because of these powerful drugs. I mean, this all goes along, it all jives in together, if you will. But how do you lose 1,200 patients in 3 years because of inadequate care? That's just unacceptable is not the right word. That's criminal. That's criminal.
Well, it is. Back in 1985, this organization made recommendations on how they need to solve patient abuse to stop it from happening. And, I think you will agree, Cindy, that because when my husband made his complaints to the hospital, they didn't care. It was all just for show. There was no substance behind their investigation.
Right. Yeah.
So it's never going to change if they don't take this seriously. They have to listen. I don't think, there may be some that just complain, but
right.
most patients won't complain unless it's true.
Well, you know what, real quick, we have like 2 minutes left, and I want to give a couple of sources, too, because we're talking about this stuff happening, and then we're, trying to help people, too, if, you can get some help through these avenues. But I agree with you. Most patients aren't crying wolf. They're just not. So there's one, it's supposedly the U.S. Administration on Aging connects patients for services for elderly. Their email is eldercare located at n4a.org. The National Center on Elder Abuse email is ncea-info@aoa.hhs.gov. There's also the National Adult Protective Services Association. Their webpage is napsa-now.org. National Domestic Violence Hotline. I think you can Google that. That also the U.S. Department of Justice, it says, provides information on U.S. law and enforces federal law. And also the Senior Safety Line, it says it's a 24/7 resource that offers support in more than 150 languages for seniors who experience abuse. Not all of this is medically apropos. It's other kinds of abuses, too. But, try some of these avenues. You and I, Jeannie, between the two of us, I must have tried 20, 25 avenues to nothing. I had one a lovely person who was a caseworker at the Florida Department of Health that totally was on my side. He could not do a thing to move my case forward whatsoever at all. His hands were tied. He was literally crying that he couldn't help me because he knew I was telling the truth. So, and I know you and your husband ran into the same thing. It's just... obliterating in your mind, and you do wind up with PTSD from a lot of the stuff a lot of people do. It's not crazy. It's reality. This medical harm needs to be addressed. On that note, stay tuned to Evergreen Media Network.